you for tuning in to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering the USMNT defeating Panama, and we'll preview the Mexico friendly that will be taking place tomorrow. We'll do a full reaction to Nigeria boycotting AFCON, boycotting the AFCON qualifier versus Libya due to being stuck in the airport. We'll discuss France's win over Belgium and the rest of the Nations League action from today. We'll be covering tomorrow's Conmebol World Cup qualifiers, and make sure you stick around for the end of the show where I'll be giving you my reaction to some of the top headlines going on in the soccer world. Before we start off, if you have a question during the show, we want to hear it. Your input is a big part of what makes the show successful, and we thrive on your energies and insights. Whether it's a quick comment, a thoughtful question, or an opinion you just have to share, don't hesitate to drop it in the chat. Now, if you want to make absolutely sure your message stands out and gets featured on the show, there's an easy way to do that. Use the super chat feature. Just click the $sign at the bottom of the chat box to send in your super chat. This guarantees that your message gets on the air, and it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we appreciate every bit of it. So go ahead and let us know what you're thinking. Hit that super chat button, and let's keep this show as interactive and exciting as possible. And if you prefer, you can also go to the gsmcpodcast.net to tip, donate, leave a comment or question there. We couldn't do what we do without your amazing support, and we're so thankful to have you as part of our community. We have to start off with the USMNT. They took on Panama in Mauricio Pochettino's first game since taking over as manager, and it was a little bit of an anticlimactic game. There was a huge excitement entering this game because of the new hope and new optimism that that us U.S. men's national team fans had with the hiring of Mauricio Pochettino, a top manager, and the game itself wasn't exactly the most thrilling encounters. Wasn't necessarily the best football to watch. But the U.S. were able to get the 2-0 win. Now, look, I've seen a little bit of people being a little critical. I've seen some people saying this is his first game. Let's be for real. He's had a few days now with this group to adjust. He's had a lot of players that, that's not been available, that won't be available for this next game because they're sending a few more home. That we'll discuss when we preview the Mexico game. But yes, it was a lackluster performance. They came out in the first half, looked a little sluggish, didn't create much, in that first half. Second half, turned it up just a little bit, but then they had the period. Once they scored that goal, they came under pressure, and it was Panama that was really pressuring for about 20 minutes. It was really them looking like the better team. They had a good opportunity. Matt Turner double save. They had a easy sitter type of opportunity squandered as well, and then eventually Ricardo Pepi, who's had a great feat recently, scoring goals off the bench, which makes him an important player for this team going forward. He's able to get the second, in transition against a team, playing, pushing guys forward, looking for that equalizer goal. But in terms of the performance, was not much better than what we saw that last international window. We look sluggish, slow to play out. And we didn't dominate the game. We didn't create enough clear-cut opportunities. But again, now we're under a new manager and everything. This is now something that will be a work in progress. It's simple as that. It is going to be a work in progress because you're not going to just bring in a new manager and turn into this sort of juggernaut type of team, right away. Now, can they develop into that? Yes, of course. And I believe in Pochettino and what he can implement into this team. But this is something that's going to take time. And you could tell that with Pochettino's tone afterwards, saying he was so happy with the game. After the game, he said, I think it was a very professional performance, and I think we are happy because I think all the goals that we said before the game, I think that we got, and I think it's an important victory. And to start that period with the victory always is very helpful. Yes, so happy. Happy because I see the staff and the players made a fantastic show, and of course with the help of the fans here in Austin. Look, obviously the performance is the most important thing in friendlies because they show a barometer of how the team is going forward, and the result is not necessarily that important. But with Pochettino now coming in, he does want to instill that winning mentality in this team. And even if it's a little bit ugly at first and doesn't do, they can build something going forward. Kind of like what we saw from Jesse Marsch. Look, Jesse Marsch early on in his Canada reign before the Copa America, they had that really bad loss out away to the Netherlands where they got smashed 4-0. Then they got a, dull sort of draw against France. And then in the Copa America, in the group stages, look, they didn't really play necessarily the greatest football in the group stages. They drew their opening game to they lost their opening game to Argentina. And then in the second game, they took on Peru, a Peru team that we see is really, really poor when you look at them in Conmebol World Cup qualifier. They won 1-0 late goal, but they did it on the basis of Peru being down to 10 men. And then in the third group stage game, something similar. Chile went down to 10 men, playing a majority of the game with 10 men, and Canada squeaked by with a 0-0 draw to get past the group stages. And then then they were able to beat Venezuela in penalties there. At first, it is going to look a little dull, but you're wanting to build something. So the results do matter early on, just to build some momentum, just to build that winning mentality. And for me, I wasn't necessarily that concerned with the way the USMNT looked. This is going to be a work in progress. This is going to be something that is to look for going forward, something he's trying to build, and it's a combination of a whole lot of things and why the performance wasn't really the best performance out there. But objectively speaking, that was not good enough performance for the U.S. men's national team going up against Panama. That's not good enough. On a normal, in a normal circumstances, that performance should be frowned upon. That's not a performance that we as USMNT fans could be proud of, but there's context to it. So, obviously it's a little bit, a little anticlimactic watching that game. But, we want to build something. Now, the most important thing now going forward is playing Mexico and Guadalajara. No matter what it takes, just get the result. Doesn't necessarily have to, let's be realistic. Playing in Mexico, we USMNT have a horrible record in Mexico. Playing any away games in Mexico, it's just, it's just something that we historically have not been successful in. But at the same time, if you look at it at the same time, this is a Mexico team that's a lot weaker than Mexico teams in the past. This Mexico team just drew with Valencia, essentially a second Valencia team, a B Valencia team. They drew with them 2-2 at home in Mexico. So it shows that this Mexican team has their weaknesses, and this U.S. team is gonna go in there short-handed. With players like Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, them being sent back early, to their club. Pochettino decided to send them back early because of just to get them more. Just to get them back to their clubs, just to keep their fitness levels at a good. Ricardo Pepi, he's also went back to Netherlands. I believe the other two players was Marlon Fozy and Zach Steffen. They've all been returned, so they're gonna go into this game a little short-handed. The USMNT is. And then all the injuries beforehand that they can't even involve into their squad because of what's going on. But at the end of the day, just get the result. No matter what it takes, get the result. This is a weak Mexico team. This is a Mexico team that the U.S. in recent history has had a massive amount of success in. You're talking about multiple wins in the Nations League. You're talking wins in the Gold Cup, playing with your C team, with the U.S. C team, beating them in the Gold Cup final. This is a U.S. team that's had a huge dominance over Mexico in recent history, and that is with the Berhalter, a manager that I have perceived as someone that, not perceived, that in my opinion has held back this USMNT team to reaching that level. So whatever it takes, just get the result. That's all that matters. Just get the result. These are two teams that are both trying to get back some of their mojo that they had pre-Copa America. Now, I'm not saying they had their mojo pre-Copa America. This US team entered the Copa America, in my opinion, not in a good position. Mexico hasn't been in a good position in terms of what they expect for themselves, going all the way back to probably the World Cup in 2018. So these are two national teams that are trying to rediscover themselves with a new manager and trying to build some momentum going into a home World Cup for both of these teams. So it's very, very important for both of these teams to use this game going up against the rival to build some momentum going forward. I think both teams should go for it. I think this is going to be an exciting game. We know the Mexican crowd against Valencia was not good enough at the Puebla, but they will pack it in the AFCON Stadium in Guadalajara, which doesn't get to see many U.S.-Mexico games because those are always, reserved for the Azteca. So, that's going to be a huge game. And it is a friendly, but it's never a friendly when it's the U.S. playing up against Mexico. In my opinion, one of the top international rivalries, not in the region, but in the world. Yes, you do have the likes of Brazil, Argentina, and Egypt, Algeria, and some, really, really good international rivalries, but U.S. Mexico, that is a rivalry. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that game. I think that's gonna be also another good barometer for this USMNT team in Pochettino's early reign, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Show break here coming up, though. When we come back, we'll do a full reaction to Nigeria boycotting AFCON qualifier versus Libya due to being stuck in the airport.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we discussed the USMNT defeating Panama, and we did a preview of the Mexico friendly. We move on to do a full reaction to Nigeria boycotting AFCON qualifier versus Libya due to being stuck in the airport, which is that's wow. I don't know if I can necessarily say this, but this gotta be the most CAF thing I've ever heard. CAF meaning Confederation of African Football. You know, the confederation is called CAF. That gotta be the most African thing I've ever heard. Oh my goodness. This is unbelievable. That's wow, unbelievable. So let me get this straight, okay? This is, the Nigerian national team were number one. They were traveling to play Libya. They were traveling to play Libya at the Martyrs of February Stadium in Benghazi, Libya. Okay, so they were traveling to play the Libyan team, in an African Cup of Nations qualifier, but but instead of reaching the airport, the right airport that they were supposed to go, they were diverted. Their flight ended up being diverted into an airport that was hours away from the airport of the match venue. And when they got to an airport, diverted away an airport away from their match venue, and they were stuck there for about more than 16 hours at that airport that was about 250 kilometers away, which is 155 miles away from where they were supposed to play at. And according to William Troost Ekong, who's their captain of the Nigerian football Nigerian football national team, he and the Nigerian football team, it was he's the one that came out saying in protest of the whole issue of them being stranded, of their flight being diverted, all that, the players and staff in protest at their flight, and then the players and staff being abandoned for hours at the airport, being abandoned with apparently no food, nowhere to be, no hotel, no reception team, no vehicles to take them anywhere to a hotel, nothing, just them being stranded there all alone. That's insane. That is absolutely insane to me. And that's actually a scary thing, almost being stranded there, having no communication. From what I hear, not having Wi-Fi at certain periods. That has to be a devastating thing to, be going through, and something that I don't blame them for, for boycotting that, because that's just unbelievable, and that's not right. The airport was 3 hours away in Benghazi. The airport was 3 hours away. Their hotel was 3 hours away in Benghazi, and they had no communication, nobody to even talk to them, and they're just stranded there trying to figure out what's going on. The players, the staff, the coaches. It's just quite ridiculous to me, quite crazy, and it's something I've never seen, Trost Ekong said, as the captain, together with the team, we have decided that we will not play this game. Apparently, our plane is being filled as we speak, and we should be leaving soon to Nigeria. CAF also said in a statement that the matter has been referred to the CAF disciplinary board for investigation, and appropriate actions will be taken against those who violated the CAF statuses and regulations. You see some of the pictures of the players laying on those cheap airport seats that, and now I'm not saying that those airport seats were cheap, just in general, you're at an airport, those uncomfortable seats that you're sitting on, them having to lay down there, them being stranded. Imagine being stranded in an airport for 16 hours. I'd lose my mind. And these are players, naturally professional players. They don't even go through security. They don't even go through security. They're professional players. They got millions of dollars. They're part of a big organization. Normally, they check the passport and they go straight through. There's no security check. There's no waiting in the long lines. There's none of that. For them to go through what they had to go through, it's just something that they're not been used to, and definitely was an uncomfortable moment. And it's something out of the frustration after, and I wonder, what is, you're being stranded there. What is the cutoff where in their, as a unit that they says, oh, they're going to protest? If they're stranded there only for about 5-6 hours, are they still going to let it go? Because for me, that's still crazy. Being stranded at the airport 6 hours, no communication, no nothing. Where was the, the cutoff period where they, they're like, all right, this is enough, Or is this something at the end that they just finally decided, nah, we're not doing this. We're going home. This is what, it's something that CAF has to look into. I believe this is something both footballing federations have to go through. I think maybe even government officials have to get involved, because these are players, these are citizen livelihoods, being affected with the unfair treatment. There's the Libyan Federation, where it seems like from the major consensus belief there, and some players have adopted this, theory as well, and it's something that's probably very likelihood that all this came from the Libyan footballing, not footballing federation, but the Libyan Football Federation, in order to get a competitive advantage with the Nigerians, with, affecting their team morality, being stuck at an airport for that long, affecting their energy levels of just being sitting at an airport, being stranded there, the whole emotional and physical toll that this can take on a team. It seems like that's what the major consensus is that Libya did this on purpose. The federation did this on purpose to gain an advantage in these high-stake AFCON qualifiers to qualify for the African Cup of Nations in Morocco next year. Look, if that's the case, there gotta be some heavy sanctioning for Libya. I do have to say heavy sanctioning. I'm talking point deductions. I'm talking major fines, because that is crazy. That is cruel and unusual punishment. 14 hours of players being stranded at the airport with no food, no food, no Wi-Fi, no place to sleep, and the worst of it all, no communication of what is going on. If they do this investigation that a CAF said that they'll do, and they deem all this, what I previously just said, to be true, you gotta speak major punishment for Libya. Because look, in my humble opinion, there's a fine line. There's a fine line between gamesmanship and gaining a competitive advantage within the spirit of the game, and then this is just flat out crazy, ridiculous. I can't even put into words. I'm speechless. That is crazy. 14 plus. That's not within the spirit of the game. Now, there's other ways to gain a competitive advantage with the spirit of the game. You're talking, make it difficult for the players' bus to get to the, stadium, things like that. When I say make it difficult, I mean have a lot of people crowd the streets. No throwing anything at the bus or anything like that, but something of that sort. Something of making it a little bit difficult here and there. Maybe, I see in American sports in the past, you talk about Celtics-Lakers series, they turn the AC off in the visitors' locker room. Something like that. Look, is that, within this, is that morally right? Probably not, but at least it's not cruel. This is cruel. What they did to the Nigerian players is cruel. So I believe some major sanctioning should fall, and how does this even happen? How does this even happen? CAF needs to come, because now it comes from the top. This even being able to happen, there's an issue when it comes to the top. And that's issues that they have to fix as well, in my opinion. This is a federation that is going to get a World Cup. Not this World Cup, but in 2030, where they'll be hosting some of the games in Morocco. So, there's something that they need to, they need to get on top of this and get on top of this fast. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will do a full reaction to France's win over Belgium and the rest of the Nations League action from today.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we did a full reaction to Nigeria boycotting AFCON qualifier versus Libya due to being stuck in the airport. We move on to do a full reaction to France. They got the win over Belgium in the Nations League. And then we'll discuss some of the rest of the Nations League fixtures, but we do have to start off with France taking on Belgium. Koulibaly, he gets a brace as he leads France past with the goal in the 35th minute, and then a penalty that he took advantage of in the 35th minute, and then slotting in that second in the 62nd to make it 2-1. Luis Openda, he got the original equalizer for Belgium on the stoppage time of the first half, but eventually Koulibaly scored again. Tchouameni got sent off later on in the 76th minute, and but France were able to hang on there, get that 2-1 win at the King Baudouin Stadium in Brussels. And look, underwhelming game for France, I do have to say it. We say that a lot. Speaking of the French national team this year, you look at the statistics: 20 shots Belgium, 14 shots for France, 7 shots for Belgium, 4 shots for France, 46% possession for Belgium. This is not necessarily the most dominant of games for France. These are both teams playing a little bit short-handed, both teams missing their talisman. Mbappe, we know the whole thing going on. He's not involved in the squad right now. De Bruyne, he asked for a break for this recent fixture as well, so he wasn't involved in this international window. And and it's Randall Koulibaly that got the brace. By the way, Koulibaly, he's almost two different players that you see for France and Belgium. It just seems like he has a comfort zone playing for France. It's something that he's maybe he thrives in the style of play that France adopt. But at PSG, he's just a shell of the player that we see of him at France. And he's had some big games for France. So the last couple of years has some big performances. He scored the winning goal in the game against the Belgium he scored a winning goal against Belgium in the European Championship. He also, I believe, scored a goal in the semifinal against Spain. Not against Spain. Yeah, against Spain. He scored the goal on the back post. So yeah, I just it's interesting. He's actually the only player that scored for France in the knockout stages at this European Championship. So yeah, he's just a different player playing for them, for France. And yeah, France didn't play the best game. Belgium had their opportunities. Belgium had a majority of the chances created. I think France, in certain moments, They looked sloppy, unorganized. Didn't really look like, they had a set way of how they wanted to attack Belgium. Everything looked a little flustered, looked very unlike France. No organization, no discipline too. Chouameni, he got sent off later on in the game. And they looked a little bit open at certain periods, France did. But, look, I just think the reality is to come that this French national team is not the French national team of the past. That dominant team that we saw from about the 2018 World Cup to the 2022 World Cup, and maybe you could include the 2016 European Championship, because that's the team that reached the final, and they should have won that European Championship, quite frankly. They lost to a Portugal team that, they shouldn't have lost to. You look from that 2016 to 2022, this French team, what we've seen from them this year, is not at that level. They cannot control the games without the ball that those teams could control the game. They cannot create the opportunities that team had. This team doesn't have the warriors that team had. I'm talking about the Girouds, the Griezmanns, the N'Golo Kantés. Well, N'Golo Kanté, he's not involved in this, but I think he's still involved with this current makeup. But they don't have the Matuitis, the players that do all the dirty work. Rabiot, he was one of those players to an extent, but he doesn't have a club right now, and he needs to get himself sorted before he can be introduced. You're looking at this team. It's a shell of that team. You have a Dembele team that has no end product. You have a Barcola, who's a young player with experience, but a little bit toothless sometimes in his cutting edge and his final ball. Colomwani, who, yes, he shows up for the national team, but at the club level, nowhere to be seen. You got players like Kone and Gunduzi. These are decent players, but this is not a Pogba, Matuidi, Kante midfield. These are not those sort of players. I think the back line, though, is, the back five, I think, is absolutely great. You look from Koundé to Konate to Saliba to this game was Lucas Digne, but other games will be Theo Hernandez. And then Mike Maignan. That is bravo. I'm talking from midfield up. Major concerns for France entering, the World Cup qualifiers, which should start, I believe, in March for them. And they're still in it. They're still alive in this Nations League. They only find themselves a point behind Italy, and they get the chance to take on Italy away. I believe the game would be played at the San Siro. It'll be played at the San Siro. So France does have everything to play for, and Italy still have to play Belgium as well in Belgium, which that could be a potential place that Italy might drop points. So who knows what we'll see. Who knows. But Italy right now, they already look in the comfortable zone to get out of that group. They got a 4-1 win over Israel today, playing that game at the Blue Energy Stadium in Udinese, in the province, where Udinese plays. So yeah, they were able to get that win. Retegui, he got on the score sheet again. He's enjoyed a really good season so far in Serie A. Giovanni De Lorenzo scored 2 goals. Fratesi get on the score sheet as well. Honestly, the most important thing there for if you're France is just take advantage of, not France, if you're Italy, just getting that victory. You have to get 3 points in these sort of games when you have Belgium and France and you're left to play as they want to approach the quarterfinal stage. If they wanted to reach the quarterfinal, this was a must win, and they did that in supreme fashion. I think they've played some really, really good football since, in my opinion, a disappointing European Championship. And now with 10 points, I think they find themselves in a good position. Only 1 point away above France, but they have a chance to take on France, and they get Belgium team at home. Will Italy get out of the quarterfinals? Will they protect that lead with France and Belgium? It's a little bit difficult, but I believe in Italy. What they've been able to do so far, they have had a really, really, really good Nations League. Just looking at what we saw from the European Championship, before we get to the Germany-Netherlands game, Wales got a 1-0 win over Montenegro. Ukraine, Czechia 1-1. Sweden got a 3-0 win over Estonia. Turkey beat Iceland 4-2. And then Hungary defeated Bosnia-Herzegovina 2-0. Albania got a 1-0 win over Georgia. Slovakia beat Azerbaijan 3-1. Germany, Netherlands. Germany were able to win 1-0. They played this game at the Allianz Arena. Some of the players that retired over the past few weeks now: Manuel Neuer, Ilkay Gundogan, Thomas Muller, Antonio Kroos, who was actually not there. They were all recognized for their achievements, and it sort of was the passing guard. Now with Germany, this is a new team, now being captained by Joshua Kimmich, a younger team led by the likes of Kimmich, Gnabry, Wirtz, Musiala, who was not involved today, but Musiala. This is a little bit of a new look team, and they went out with some some inexperienced players for the German level. Talking about Stiller playing in midfield, Lewelling, Kleinsten, and there was a good opportunity for them to show Julian Nagelsmann what they can do. And this is a Nagelsmann that's turned around Germany. I thought overall in this game, they did some good things here and there. Netherlands lacked that cutting edge, were really toothless, I do have to say. Really toothless going forward. Didn't create anything. Only had 3 shots in the game. Only managed 1 shot on target. It was disappointing. Very, very, very disappointing Netherlands were. But Germany overall looked really, really good. They have a young core to build with going forward, I do have to say. And it's very exciting if you are a German fan. This is a team that's not had the most success, pre this European Championship, going back to the 2018 World Cup. But now they're starting to build some forward momentum, and they look like a national team with promise, and a national team that has high potential entering the World Cup. Because look, I've said this many, many times, but the German national team at this European Championship was the best team at the European Championship besides Spain. The only reason why they didn't finish ahead of what they didn't finish as far as what they should have is because they went up against the best team in the quarterfinal. Sometimes that happens. You can be the second best team in the tournament and take on, the best team in the tournament in the quarterfinals, because the quarterfinals is primarily all the first place teams in the group taking on against each other, barring a few upsets here and there in the round of 16. And what happened was Germany and Spain just happened to be on that side of the bracket, on that, in that quadrant, and they faced off in the quarterfinal, and it was really the final of the final. If you saw how the game went, you saw the intensity, the quality, how it came down to the last minute extra time winner. It sort of proves my theory, and it makes me even double down on my opinion that Germany is a dangerous outfit going into the 2026 World Cup. Show break here coming up though. When we come back, we'll do a preview of tomorrow's Conmebol World Cup qualifiers.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we did a full reaction to France's win over Belgium and the rest of the Nations League action from today. We move on to do a preview of tomorrow Conmebol World Cup qualifiers, and we have this. Let's just go in order in terms of kickoff times. First game, Colombia taking on Chile. Now, Colombia, they want to bounce back from that loss that they suffered away to Bolivia. Now being back into their own, the comfort of their own home, playing at the Roberto Melendez Metropolitano Stadium in Barranquilla in front of 46,000 Colombians. This game will also be played at 3:30, similar time that they played when they played Argentina. So expect the game to be hot, to be very, very, a difficult thing for the Chilean players to deal with. And look, Chile is sitting on the bottom of Conmebol World Cup qualifiers for a reason. They're an old team that lacks the quality to compete in these sort of games. I think how old that they are and the issue with their legs is going to be even a bigger issue going up against this young, energetic, high-intensity Colombian team playing at home, feeding off the ground, and also the heat, playing a factor on these old Chilean players, the fatigue there. This should be as smooth sailing as Colombia gets. They're going to be hungry. They just had their massive unbeaten streak snapped from Bolivia. So yeah, I fully expect them to go into this and, dismantle Chile and just show why that they are why they're currently sitting second place in CONMEBOL World Cup qualifiers. So yeah. Paraguay take on Venezuela. This is two teams that are very, very tight. There's only 1 point between them two. One sitting 7th, one sitting 8th. These sort of games between the Venezuelas, the Paraguays, the Ecuadors, the Bolivias, they're all tight in there. They're all combined with 2 points. So every one of these results is extra crucial. Paraguay playing this game as home as well. They're going to be a little bit more desperate, because they want to defend every point. In these qualifying games, you're always wanting to protect home and trying to get what you can away. So obviously Paraguay is going to be a little bit more desperate to get this result. Venezuela, they took advantage of their home and got that draw against Argentina in that given atmosphere with the sloppy grounds and all that. This, in my opinion, is going to be a little bit different with them going away. And it's hard to lean either way. I think both teams are at a similar level, but Venezuela, I think they're gonna be defensively very, very solid. There is quality in Paraguay with Julio Enciso, with the pace of Miguel Almiron to cause Venezuela trouble, but I think they're going to be tight. They're primarily going to play in transition, take advantage of set pieces when they come with a big man like Solomon Rondon, really play off him to try to get out, to try to, quiet down the crowd as well. I think his, Solomon Rondon's hold-up play is going to be a big part of this game. And honestly, by the way, Solomon Rondon, a legend. He's been doing this for such a long time now, age 35. If you're a Premier League fan, you know him from his days at West Brom, and then he also had a season actually at Everton a little bit later on. No, he had a season at Newcastle and then had a season with Everton a little bit later on after that. Looking forward to that one. You have the likes of you have Uruguay taking on Ecuador. In my opinion, this is the game that probably has the most quality when you look at both teams. I think Ecuador has been pretty underwhelming in these qualifiers. Because, look, I always go back to what I saw from them at the 2022 World Cup. They played some excellent high-flying football, and they were disappointing to me at the Copa America because I didn't see that football being managed by a different manager. Now they got rid of Felix Sanchez and they brought in the likes of Sebastian Beccaci, I don't know how to say that, or Beccaci, I don't know how to say it. Sebastian Beccaci, who was managing at Elche this past season, and he's kind of tried to turn around the fortunes for Ecuador, which is been so far been okay. They lost to Brazil, and then they beat Peru, and then drew to Paraguay. So now going up against a Uruguayan team coming off a very disappointing result. Uruguay, they need to start building some momentum, because lately, they've not been great. I believe they're winless in their last 6 or something like that. Uruguay is a lot of draws there. They lost to one of the worst teams in Conmebol in Peru, but in the last 4 games they're winless. In the last 7 games, they haven't won a single game within within the actual game. They won a few games in penalty shootout against Brazil and Canada, but in those last 7 games, they haven't really won the game within the duration of the game. So it's something that is a little bit of concern. We know what's going on with the Bielsa, issues there as well, and it's something that they need to get a result to quiet that down, in my opinion. Argentina take on Bolivia. Now, this is a Bolivia team coming extra hot in the fact that they've won their last 3 qualifiers. They've won their last 3 qualifying games against Venezuela. Where they defeated them 4-0. They were able to defeat the likes of Chile as well. And the impressive part about them defeating Chile is that they did that away at Chile. And they did it in a pragmatic way where Chile dominated that game, but they got the 2 goals. They were clinical, and then they beat Colombia at home, playing the majority of the game with down to 10 men. They got that victory. Now they take on the likes of Argentina away, and they've had a good run. Now they have 12 points. They're sitting currently in 6th place, which is automatic spot into the World Cup if it ended today. But look, Bolivia sitting 6th, but talent-wise, they're probably the worst team in Conmebol. And in 3 of their wins so far this campaign, they took advantage of having that not amazing atmosphere per se, but the amazing advantage of playing in altitude that makes it very difficult for teams going in. Now going away to the Monumental in Buenos Aires with 85,000 Argentinians, Bolivia, they're gonna get suffocated in this one. I think Argentina are gonna win this game and win this game comfortably, just because the quality is just much different, and there is no altitude to play into the favor of the Bolivians here. So I think that takes away majority of what their chances are to do, in this game. Brazil take on Peru. Again, another must-win for Brazil, a Brazilian team that's looked a shell of themselves over the last few years or so. This is probably their last game that they'll be playing without Neymar. We'll discuss this in the next segment with some of the top headlines. He's looking like he's going to be back really, really soon, and that means more than likely he'll be available in that November window. So if you're Brazil, you just need to get the result here. They've looked really, really bad. Even in the wins that they've had, they haven't really looked the most forward-thinking team. Haven't created much clear-cut opportunities. Don't look like the Brazilian teams in the past. Look, you're taking on the team that is currently sitting second to last place in Conmebol World Cup qualifiers, and they're there by a margin. Honestly, they're not anywhere near the likes of the Paraguay, Venezuela, Bolivia's, and Ecuador's. Brazil is not even that far above them. They're only a point above the Ecuador and Bolivia's. Brazil sitting after 9 games, Brazil only have 1 point ahead of Bolivia. That just tells you, that just tells a story right there. So massive for Brazil to get the result against Peru. Thank you guys though for tuning into the GSMC Soccer. No, that's not the end of the show. We have one more segment coming up. Excuse me there. Before the oh my god, I can't speak today. We'll take a short break here. When we come back, we'll do a reaction to some of the top soccer headlines. Before the break, we discussed the Conmebol World Cup qualifier games tomorrow. We move on to do the reactions to some of the top headlines, and we have to start off from news coming out. I don't know if is it coming out from Brazil, is it coming out from Saudi, however you want to perceive it, but Neymar, apparently he could return from injury next week. Neymar, he has made some significant improvements since that huge knee injury that he suffered playing for Brazil against Uruguay in the last year's World Cup qualifier. And now apparently he could be fit to play in Al Hilal's game that's going to be played on October 21. He's been out for a year since he suffered a torn ACL and a meniscus in that left knee, and now he's returned to training. On September 29. They're monitoring his fitness levels, and now he's set to be able to return to play in time for Al Hilal when they take on Al Ain in the Champions League, the Asian Champions League on October 21. Al Hilal coach Jorge Jesus say we'll have the final say on Neymar and when he'll return. However, they do need to get the approval of Brazilian team Dr. Rodrigo Lasmar, that actually was the one that carried out the Neymar surgery. Rodrigo Lasmar is set to be traveling to Saudi Arabia to evaluate Neymar's fitness, and yeah, that'll be great. And obviously the Brazil Federation is going to be monitoring this, and they're hopeful that Neymar will be available, because in November they have huge World Cup qualifiers against Venezuela and Uruguay, and they hope that Neymar will be available and there to play for Brazil, so that they can start building some momentum going forward, because this is a Brazil team that look pretty poor right now for their standards. Serginho Dest, the dirt on Xavi continues. Oh my goodness, shots coming left and right from a lot of different directions. You have Joan Laporta, you had Luis Enrique. Now it is Serginho Dest that joins the club. Serginho Dest said, basically saying Xavi was dishonest. So let's just read the quotes exactly. I wouldn't say, when he was asked if there was much regrets, when Serginho Dest was out, he said, I wouldn't say regrets, because how it ended didn't depend on me, but I don't feel I had the necessary chances with Xavi. I felt like I had to play with limits that I could not be myself. I want to join the attack, which is my biggest strength, but he asked me not to go forward. I don't think he was honest with me either. Let me go back to that. I don't think he was honest with me either. We had several conversations in which he told me one thing, but after I had doubts whether he really told me the truth. In the summer of 2023, before going on holiday, he told me, I'm counting on you. Don't read the press. And as soon as I returned, he told me, you have to go. That's tough. He went on to talk about his time under Koeman. I was flying when I arrived. Things went well on an individual level, but in the end, I was new here. My teammates didn't know me. My style is to take risks with the ball, but I was asked to play differently. That made me lose some confidence in my decision making. You doubt whether to be yourself or change your style. Those doubts damage your performances. Now, Serginho Dest, we know he's currently sidelined with the ACL injury, and he should be returning to action next year. There's a lot of negative, connotations coming regarding Xavi, since he's, been sacked by Barcelona, and Erling Haaland, he apologizes after Norway were completely dumped by Austria after they lost 5-1, and he said that the performance was far too bad. Sorry everyone, that was far too bad on my part. In November we go for 6 points. Haaland sent this on Instagram. Haaland, he was criticized because he declined to answer any question from the media, the Norwegian press, after the game. And the stand-in captain, Sander Berg, said after the game, he has every right to do that. You can feel the disappointment now. We have a team in there. We stand in ups and downs regardless. The most important thing is that we are united. I do have to say, Erling Haaland right now, look, he's still very, very young, and he's only 24 years old, but I really hope that Norway, and I don't know if it's a coaching issue or a talent issue or quality issue, but I hope we get to see Erling Haaland in many international tournaments to come, because from what we've seen so far, it doesn't seem that likely, because Norway, they're not even particularly close to reach these, international tournaments, Yeah, they've been in a few, they went in the 2021 Euros, they were in that, they were in that Nations League qualifying, the Nations League qualifying part of it, the last teams to get in. And in the World Cup wasn't really particularly close. This past European Championship wasn't really that close. And and they got beat by a Scotland team, which is not even the strongest team to get to reach the European Championship. So I just hope that we don't, this doesn't turn into, a situation like Aubameyang, or as, something of that sort, where we just don't get to see this, a player with real brilliant ability never play on the big international stage, because we haven't seen him so far in any European Championship up to this point, and he didn't qualify for the 2022 World Cup. So, hopefully that they're able to turn it around, so that they can make it going on. Chilwell is apparently linked with the move to Napoli. We know that Chilwell, he's fallen completely out of favor with Enzo Maresca, and he was told to actually leave in this summer. He now is involved in the squad, but doesn't really get any minutes, and which means the January move could be a potential opportunity for him to make the move to get some playing time. It's been reported that Napoli are interested in him. Conte is said to be impressed with this player, and it could be an initial loan for Chilwell, and that could turn permanent in the summer of 2025, which I think is something that will fit both Napoli and the player, because Napoli, they play with, for both sides, they play a formation that fits to Ben Chilwell's strengths, being on the left-hand side of a back five, being able to show his quality going forward, and having that, protection from the left center half to, because Ben Chilwell is not the particularly most lockdown defender, especially since the injuries that he suffered. And Conte, I think he'll really be able to take advantage of his qualities. I think Conte has turned the worst fullbacks with less talent into playable players. I think he can really take advantage of Chilwell. So I think that's something that could work out on both sides, I do have to say. But thank you guys for tuning in to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We don't have a... Thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. So thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to